Xenon is a top-tier celebrity in the entertainment industry. After getting engaged to him, I was ridiculed all over the internet as a substitute and a humble servant. Even the tattoo on my waist had to be exactly the same as that of his first love. He once live-streamed while drunk, saying casually, "If it weren't for her good figure, I would have dumped her long ago." After being reborn, on the day of our engagement, I took off the engagement ring and returned it to him. Xenon lost control. "Darling, please, don't go to Hector. My Hector came to me on the 7th day after my death, when he committed suicide. He was still tightly holding the little rabbit keychain I gave him when we were kids. When my asthma flared up, I realized that my medicine had run out. When I fainted in the corridor, I could still hear the noisy sounds of a party in the hall downstairs." Xenon, isn't it too noisy? Won't sister-in-law mind at night? During a song-changing break, I heard Xenon's emotionless tone quietly ring out. "She's on a business trip and hasn't come back." I curled up, gasping for breath, and the feeling of suffocation hit. Going on a business trip to Paris was something that happened last week. As soon as I came back, I fell ill, with a fever and a cold. I coughed so much at night that I couldn't sleep. So I casually took to sleeping pills and went to bed. By the time the intense feeling of suffocation hit, I was almost at my limit. The villa in the southern part of the city was hardly lived in on weekdays. Xenon didn't come here often either. Nor did I expect him to come here today. Xenon seemed particularly irritable today. Sitting on the sofa, he kept gulping down glass after glass of wine. I thought he had probably quarreled with Nina again. My fiancé, Xenon. He had been in the industry for 4 years and had been with Nina for 4 years. On the day he won the Best Actor award, he suddenly proposed to me in front of so many people. I had been admiring Xenon for many years at that time. I was overjoyed and didn't think much about it. I didn't even notice that the ring was a size too big. I just became a victim of his quarrels with Nina. Since then, I have become Nina's substitute. Xenon doesn't like me to dye my hair. He says black hair looks the best. Nina likes to eat cakes, so he always likes to buy cakes back. Even on the day of the engagement photo shoot, whether intentionally or not, the X and N letter tattoo on his wrist was also exposed and captured in the photos. "Xenon, Annette, there's a call. It's Nina. She said she has a high fever and feels terrible." Xenon sat up straight, drank 2 more glasses of wine, and raised his hand to loosen his collar. When he got up, his hostility erupted, and he kicked away the stool next to him. The people around didn't dare to breathe. I know him too well. If Nina calls him, he will definitely go. Just before he got up, I don't know if his conscience suddenly struck or what. While looking up at the second floor direction, he dialed my phone. But his steps towards the outside didn't stop, obviously, having fulfilled my sigh. It was just shortness of breath, but I felt that my heart was hurting like it was about to die. I remembered the time right after we got engaged. A flood of news swept across the internet. My social media accounts and private messages were flooded by their fans. On my birthday, Xenon was filming on the set. I saw the video again where I sent him to the set in the morning. When he got out of the car, I got out after him, and he walked quickly ahead without looking back. I even had to trot along with the staff and fans, carrying his coat and bag. I also heard the fans ridicule, "Oh my God, is that Kara? She looks so discomfited. She almost tripped just now." Xenon didn't even look back at her. I don't know why Kara is still clinging to him. Another fan said, "She's being shameless. A friend Annie is coming to the door." If I were him, I would take it too. At night, I was alone in the room. I bought a paper cupcake without cream, lit a candle, and sang a birthday song to myself. As I was singing, my tears suddenly fell. There was a doorbell ring from a delivery guy. After signing for it, it was an unsigned gift. When I opened it, it was a hand-sewn little rabbit. Obviously, it wasn't from Xenon. It was almost early morning when Xenon finally called me back. It was very lively on his end. He was probably having a meal with the staff. I heard the sound of a lighter. He was probably smoking. I couldn't hold back my sobs. "Xenon, do you know that my private messages are cursed every day, saying that my whole family should die?" They curse me to drop dead. Curse me to be hit by a car when I go out. Xenon was silent for 2 seconds. Why do you believe these things? You're a model and a public figure yourself. What's there to care about these internet rumors? Xenon. The director is looking for you. Someone called his name on his end. The call was hung up in a hurry. He clearly knew what made me the saddest. Half a month after I got engaged to Xenon, my parents had a car accident on the highway. From that day on, I became completely alone. The whole family is dead. If I die, it will completely fulfill this vicious curse. At my parents' funeral, I was shivering all over. Xenon held me and patiently coaxed me. Don't cry anymore. From now on, I'll be here. I'll always be with you. But half a year later, Nina called him. That call lasted for a whole night. Nina was sobbing softly on the phone, talking about their college days and their relationship. After the call, Xenon got completely drunk. Then he opened a new account to live stream and chat with fans. The background music was Suspended Drowning, played over and over again. Fans, why is Xenon so sad today? Did he break up with Kara? Break up? Great news. Great news. Xenon laughed. No breakup. Can't break up. He leaned back in the chair, tilting his head, and his face was hidden in the shadows. He looked extremely sad. It was as if I had become the biggest obstacle between him and Nina, the lovers. In the end, he almost fell asleep in the live stream. His words were slurred. Stop brushing Kara. It's so annoying. If it weren't for her good figure, I would have dumped her long ago. I just don't want to lose to Nina. Why can't she turn around and start a new relationship, while I'm still stuck here waiting? So that proposal was just a way to spite Nina. Nina's family didn't agree to Nina marrying Xenon. It was really ridiculous that I innocently became a part of their gang. From that day on, the online abuse towards me got louder and louder. Xenon turned a blind eye. He thought I could handle it. And I also acted as if I could handle it. I spent 2 months alone in the hospital, undergoing electroshock therapy. I had it done 12 times in total. After being discharged from the hospital, every time he came home, I would face him in the best state, trying to smile, be sunny, and chat with him about the interesting things that happened every day. Like the ugly alpaca raised by the neighbor next door. I had lost everyone. I only had Xenon left. He was the last straw in my life. If I couldn't even hold on to him, I might really die. I couldn't breathe anymore. The numbness caused by excessive oxygen and deficiency spread throughout my body. The call from Xenon was automatically connected. I had set this up specifically for him. The boy I once treasured in my life was now on his way to see his first love, calling me at the same time. Kara? Donna's voice seemed so distant and ethereal. At this moment, I'm going to a friend's place. When will you be home? My vision gradually became blurred, and I slowly closed my eyes. I no longer had the strength to answer his question. Kara, when you come back this time, let's have a good talk. I won't be able to come back. Mom and Dad, if I could do it all over again, I never want to meet Xenon again. I had a very, very long dream. I dreamed that I went back to my parents' home. I pushed open the door. On the stove in the kitchen, there were stewing spare ribs gurgling. My dad was wearing a pink Hello Kitty apron. That was the 50 yuan bonus I got when I won the first prize in the school composition competition in the 6th grade of primary school. I bought it and gave it to my dad. My mom laughed so hard that she couldn't straighten up for a long time. My dad was still happily twisting in front of the mirror. My daughter gave it to me. You don't have one. As soon as I opened the door, my dad greeted me. Wash your hands and come eat quickly. Your mom has secretly eaten several braised spare ribs in the kitchen. After I washed my hands and sat down, the food in my bowl was already piled high. My mom peeled shrimps for me. Kara, eat more. Don't lose weight anymore. You're as thin as a bamboo pole. I was silent, shoveling rice into my mouth. Dad scooped up pig trotter soup for me. Kara, no matter what happens, taking care of your body is the most important thing. Remember, there's nothing that can't be overcome. But without you by my side, I really can't go on. Tears mixed with the rice as I ate. and I was trembling all over from crying. Daughter. On my left and right. Warm big hands stroked my head. I seemed to have returned to my childhood. As a young girl with 2 ponytails. I sat at the table, swinging my legs, waiting for the meal to be served, accompanied by the sounds on the TV. I got the most and best tasting dishes in my bowl. Good girl. It's time to wake up. In the future, even if you're alone, you have to be brave. My soul suddenly detached. I floated in midair and saw my body. It was pushed from the emergency room into the cold morgue. Zenon was at a loss. Standing at the door, motionless, watching me being pushed in. The doctor asked him, the family member of the deceased, come and sign here. The doctor asked twice before he heard. Zenon's voice was hoarse. I'm Murphy Inc. Am I considered a family member? Her family members are all gone. The doctor shook his head. Not considered a family member. TSK. Such a young girl with no family left? So pitiful. I didn't know what he was thinking at this moment, and I didn't want to know. Just as I was about to leave, I saw a boy rush in like he had gone crazy. As soon as I saw him, my tears fell again. Has Hector returned to the country? I've known Hector since we were kids. He became famous at a young age and had countless fans. But when Hector went abroad, his career was in ruins. He was rebellious, got into fights, drank alcohol, and was completely black and by the whole nation. On the internet, they gave him the nickname, Hector. But every time he called me, even though he was a lively and crazy idol in front of the camera, his voice on the phone was slow and extremely soft. He would act like a puppy and say, Kara, when I come back, I'll buy you a new bag. Kara, I'm so craving the barbecue shop in the back alley of the school. Eat a few more bites for me. And at this moment, Hector had dyed his messy hair white again. He looked even more like a puppy. He took a few steps. When he saw me from a distance, his steps became unsteady. A crying and laughing expression appeared on his face. Kara? He staggered over and carefully wiped my face with his sleeve. Can you get up, please? A huge suction force pulled me away. In a trance, I seemed to hear someone saying, it's time to wake up. Kara, why did you fall asleep? Someone pushed me, and I woke up suddenly. In the dressing room, a girl in a white mermaid dress was reflected in the mirror. A high-end customized dress, luxurious jewelry. The exquisitely dressed person was me. Ami's face showed a bit of impatience. Look at you. Your just done makeup is smeared again. Have you been crying? There were mottled tear stains at the corners of my eyes. As if I had just cried. Amy took out a powder puff to touch up my makeup. If it weren't for Zenon's sake, would I, a gold medal stylist, be your makeup artist for the event? Ami was Zenon's stylist. He had first-class skills and was a stylist that many celebrities couldn't hire even if they tried. He was good in every way. Just that he didn't like me. After he finished touching up my makeup, he looked rather disdainful, to be honest. Are you really that naive or just pretending? Do you think you and Zenon can make it to the end? You two are not a bit compatible. I looked at Amy in the mirror. I said gently, well, you're right. I'm not compatible with him at all. But I think it's him who doesn't deserve me. Not the other way around. I took a makeup removing wipe from the side and gently wiped off the lipstick on my lips, followed by the foundation, eyeliner. Amy looked shocked. Kara, are you crazy? I wiped my face clean. Without looking at him again, I pushed the door and walked into the hotel lobby first. All the guests in the lobby turned their eyes to me in unison. I really went back to the day of the engagement? The side door of the banquet hall was pushed open, and Zenon strode towards me. Before I could speak, he first grabbed my wrist. I don't know if it was an illusion or something. I saw that his eye sockets were crimson. Maybe he just finished talking on the phone with Nina? But that didn't matter anymore. I stopped. Zenon's eyes were full of bloodshot. He opened his mouth, but was interrupted by me, Zenon. In full view of all the guests, I took off the diamond ring that didn't fit well. I break apart his fingers and placed the diamond ring in the palm of his hand. Let's break up. Without any nostalgia, I turned around and left. But he grabbed my hand again with force. suppressing the tremor in his tone. He said in a low voice, "Don't go. Please." I was a bit surprised. This didn't quite fit Xenon's character and way of doing things. During the time I was with signing, even though I was so humble at that time, I didn't dare to mention the two words break up to him. Because I knew, with his temper, if I mentioned breaking up, he would definitely leave without looking back. Without the slightest bit of nostalgia, I continued to pry his hand off. He suddenly lost control a bit and said, "Are you going to look for Hector?" Hector. A sudden, indescribable dull pain came from my heart, after Hector rushed back and saw my body. On the 7th day after I died. That stupid crazy person lay alone in the bathtub and slit his wrists with a knife. I forcefully shook off his hand and quickly took 2 steps back. Xenon still wanted to come forward. But I didn't even want to look at him anymore. I picked up the hem of my dress and quickly ran out of the banquet hall. I rushed back to the old house. I couldn't wait to push open the door. Mom and Dad. As soon as I opened my mouth, tears gushed out. The living room, the second floor, the bedroom, the garden. There was no one at all. A thick layer of dust had accumulated on the furniture. It seemed as if no one had lived in the house for a long time. It shouldn't be like this. According to the timeline, my parents should clearly still be alive at this time. Someone pushed the door and came in downstairs. Kara? Aunt? Aunt was the maid at home. Later, when my parents got busy with business, she came to the house to help take care of me. Aunt cleaned the house. In front of the black and white photos of my parents in their bedroom, she lit a stick of incense, put her hands together and prayed, "Kara, your parents were most worried about you. Some results are doomed to be unchangeable. But the living still have to look forward." There seemed to be more to her words. But I couldn't accept it. Since God has given me the chance to be reborn, why has the time of my parents' death also changed? Why don't I even have the chance to change the ending? After Aunt left, I was plunged into great sadness. I suddenly couldn't figure out the meaning of this rebirth. I also seemed to have suddenly lost my direction. When Aunt left, she cooked me a meal. There was soup simmering in the pot, and the TV was also playing a program. It was as if there was still a breath of life in the house. Suddenly, the grand scene of a Stars concert appeared on the TV. The top-tier idol with pink hair was shining on the stage. His movements froze. And under the spotlight, sweat dripped down his perfect, godlike facial features from his cheeks to his neck. Under the stage, there were thousands of fans screaming wildly. Hector. Yes. My Hector. The fool who committed suicide because of me in the previous life. I grabbed my phone and urgently searched for Hector's contact information. But strangely, this time, all of Hector's chat methods disappeared from my phone. I called a mutual friend of Hector and me. The friend was surprised. Hector? You mean that top-tier idol Hector? When was he our friend? Kara, are you just feeling stimulated because you just broke up with Xenon? My hands were shaking. I couldn't believe that Hector didn't know me anymore. But 2 days later, I appeared downstairs in the company building of Hector's studio. Being reborn once, even if my character was weak, I owed Hector. And I had to pay him back. Even if he really didn't know me anymore, I would still stay by his side until he got through the upcoming crisis in the entertainment industry this year. Things didn't go so smoothly. I failed the interview for the assistant position. Because of Xenon's relationship. And since I was also a somewhat famous model before, many people knew me. After hearing the news of the failed interview, I stood stupidly in the lounge. My mind was still full of countermeasures. But there were footsteps coming from behind the door. Hey, what are you standing there stupidly for? A teasing male voice sounded from behind. The person who spoke stretched out his arm and gave me a shoulder lock from behind. He put his arm around my shoulder, with most of his body leaning towards me, in a familiar and natural way. My mind went blank. Hector. This was his favorite way of greeting before. Slacker and not very serious. He still remembered me. I suppressed my excitement. Just as I was about to turn around. Hector, damn. Sorry. I mistook you for someone else. He withdrew his hand. He put his hands in his pockets and stood there, tilting his head and smiling. His smile was as sunny and bright as ever. He was wearing a simple ordinary outfit, but that eye-catching and flamboyant pink hair showed no sign of being low-key at all. We looked at each other for only a few seconds. I completely understood. He really didn't know me at all. I'm a bit presumptuous. But can I work in your studio? Volunteer work is also okay. As long as I can join your team. Hector walked past me and sat down on the sofa. He took out a lollipop from somewhere and stuffed it into his mouth. He picked up the game console on the sofa and started playing, casually saying, "Sister Tian said we don't seem to be short of people anymore." I closed my eyes and said with difficulty, "I just really want to learn more." He suddenly laughed. With a mischievous look, "We're still short of a bodyguard. Can you do it?" I was stunned for a moment. That would be perfect. Although I was a timid person, because of my childhood asthma, my parents sent me to learn martial arts to strengthen my body. When I was in high school, I cried and broke the ribs of a hooligan with my bare hands. 2 ribs. No less. I can do it. I tightened my grip on the bag chain and nodded nervously. Hector pursed his lips, but shook his head. He was clearly teasing me. There were 3 wooden boards piled up in the corner of the room. I walked straight over and placed the boards. I concentrated and made a karate chop. The game console in Hector's hand dropped. I continued to chop the second board. And the third. After I finished, seeing him stunned, I pointed to the broom in the corner. "Should I try this too?" Crack. Hector bit through the lollipop in his mouth. With a playful smile, "No need." He looked me up and down carefully. "You're hired." A month later, I had become the most controversial personal female bodyguard, beside Hector. I cut my hair into a short bob and always wore a mask and sunglasses. So for the time being, no one had dug out my identity. Hector didn't care. "Why do you always wear a mask? You don't have to." He still didn't know that I was once Dianon's Vin and Key. Hector seemed trendy and avant-garde on the outside, but in fact, he didn't like surfing the internet before. Every time there was a trending topic or meme, he heard about it from others. I once laughed at him for being not a to network, so when he mentioned the mask, I couldn't find an excuse. I was sitting in the last row of the nanny van. Hector turned his head to look at me. "Take off the mask. With your looks, you might be discovered and become popular." I shook my head. "I just want to be a bodyguard." Hector burst out laughing. He joked, "Did I save your life?" "Yes. Hector. You saved my life. You made me know that I'm not alone and pitiful. You made me know that in this world, there is such a you who loves me. You gave me the courage to face this reborn world again." At the music festival, the atmosphere was warm, and the screams almost lifted the entire square. After Hector finished performing 3 songs in a row, the audience below the stage was still shouting encore crazily. He was a big star born for the stage. In the next second, I saw Hector's arms sink, and his shirt was already taken off and turned to the audience. His whole body was sweaty, and his bare upper body revealed his beautiful muscle lines. The decibel of the screams below the stage increased again. "Here we go again." I exchanged glances with my colleagues. We took a step forward in a dance and hugged Hector, who was excited and about to rush into the audience to interact with them. Other people hired bodyguards to protect the stars. Hector hired 8 bodyguards to protect the audience. After the performance, the manager handed Hector a bottle of water. He unscrewed the cap and was about to pour it down, but I suddenly reached out and knocked it out of his hand. The manager didn't like me originally. "Kara, what are you crazy about?" I whispered. "You can't drink it." Just as Hector was taking the water, I suddenly remembered. Hector drank the water with something in it at this music festival. As a result, his vocal cords were severely damaged, and he had to rest for a long time without fully recovering. The manager sneered. "Well, then tell me why you can't drink it." "What? Do you think I would poison Hector?" "No. There's a needle hole." Hector had already picked up the water bottle and carefully examined it. After seeing the needle hole on it, the manager was dumbfounded. "I just took this out of the carton?" The manager chose to call the police immediately. After checking the surveillance, it was found that it was a black fan disguised as a staff member who did it. The criminal was caught. I heaved a sigh of relief. When I turned around, I saw Hector leaning against the corridor with his arms folded. His beautiful, bright black eyes seemed to see through me. Thanks. He raised his hand and placed it on my head, praising, "My little bodyguard is really amazing." But I still felt a faint sense of unease. Hector had never been depressed even when his most prized vocal cords were damaged. What on earth had he experienced that made him suddenly go abroad and transform from a sunny boy into an artist with crazy and out-of-line behavior? I had no idea. But I could faintly sense that those things I had been unaware of before would arrive soon. Little bodyguard. Hector raised his arm and put it around my shoulder, half of his body pressing on me, leaning down to talk to me. "Why do you always look so gloomy?" He stretched out his index and middle fingers, placed them on my forehead. "Girls should smile more." I felt my ears getting hot faintly. The old Hector also liked to be close to me like this. But ever since he knew I had someone I liked, he began to maintain a proper distance from me with a sense of propriety. But now, his familiarity made me feel inexplicably nervous. Even though I knew he was this familiar with the staff around him. After the music festival, Hector was going to a party at a nightclub with his friends. He generally didn't like to bring bodyguards on his private trips. But I had a bad premonition and still strongly insisted on following. "You can come with me," Hector said. "Change your clothes." Finally, he picked an outfit for me: a cropped top, a leather jacket on the outside, and a short skirt on the bottom. "It looks great." After we got in the car, he added the second half of the sentence, half teasing, "And it can help me fend off unwanted romantic advances. Aren't you afraid that the media will write nonsense about your love history?" I was curious. Hector leaned back, sinking into the seat and chuckling softly. "My love history is already a mess. In the eyes of the media, I seem to have always been quite a mess." Yes. It seemed the same before. Hector was in the spotlight and had a lot of controversies. Even I, who didn't pay much attention to the entertainment industry news, could always see it. There were rumors about Hector's rumored girlfriends, secret lovers, and underground romances. But in fact, his friends who were familiar with him knew that Hector had never even had a girlfriend. I looked at his profile. Off stage, he washed off his makeup, revealing his flawless and beautiful bare face. Even if he stayed up for several nights, his skin was still much better than that of ordinary people. Some people are really born to be in the entertainment business. Then, I paused and looked at the passing scenery outside the car window. Then clarify. Whether it's one rumor or countless rumors, we sue every time one pops up. We can't spoil those who spread rumors. You may not care. But those who like you will be sad because you are slandered. Hector didn't say anything for a long time. I turned to look at him. I found that his gaze had already been withdrawn from the game console and was looking in my direction. It seemed he had been looking for a while. I touched my face. "Is there something on my face?" Hector said. "Have we met before?" After thinking for a few seconds, I denied it. If he could never remember the past again, it would be okay. It would be better that way. I hoped that he would never have to endure such pain in this life, especially when his life ended. The most painful despair was brought to him by me. In this life, he just needs to be a top-tier idol safely and care freely, standing in the center of the stage, shining under the spotlight. It's enough for me to silently protect him. After arriving at the destination, I quietly followed behind Hector. When we entered through the VIP passage, I wore a mask the whole time. After entering, Hector was immediately surrounded by the crowd. "Damn, Hector, you're really late today. Drink a bottle by yourself." He was always the most popular one. Someone handed him a drink. I was on the periphery of the crowd. Suddenly, as if he remembered something, he turned around to look for me. After finding me, he immediately grabbed my hand and pulled me forward. "Damn, Hector, is this your new girlfriend?" a burly-looking boy exclaimed with an exaggerated expression. Hector kicked him. "You know it. So why ask?" It was at this moment I felt several hostile gazes sizing up the side of my face. They were several very young and beautiful rich girls. One of them had the most provocative look. "You still wear a mask at a party?" Are you more famous than Hector? Yeah. Take off your mask and show your face. Just then, several glamorous and eye-catching artists walked in. The man walking at the back, looking down at his phone. It was Xenon. Scared, I immediately shook my head. It's not convenient. After running away from the engagement party, Xenon used all the connections and contact methods around him to seek reconciliation with me. But I refused all of them. A girl pointed at the letter tattoo on my waist. Your tattoo is so special. I always feel like I've seen it somewhere. This tattoo. When I liked Xenon before, I was crazy enough to get it. At that time, I thought he liked tattoos. Later, I found out that he liked the original owner of this tattoo, Nina. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilledly. Xenon was chatting with an acquaintance and was at a certain distance from us. I was wearing a mask and dressed completely differently from before, so he wouldn't recognize me for a while. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom, but I still didn't forget to send a message to Hector to remind him, don't randomly accept cigarettes and drinks from others. I carefully recalled the timeline of my previous life. I only remembered that Hector had experienced the biggest public opinion storm before going abroad. He was reported for taking drugs. Drug components were detected in his body. During that time, he was condemned by thousands of people and abused all over the internet. Although later, after investigation, it was found that someone deliberately added something to the drink and handed it to him. It was to frame him. Not long after the clarification, he still went abroad. I squatted on the toilet for a while and didn't receive a reply from Hector. The feeling of restlessness became more and more obvious. I still couldn't help but push the door open and go out to look for him. From a distance, I saw someone hand Hector a glass of wine, and he reached out to take it. I remember. The girl who had talked to me earlier pointed at me with a gossipy look. You're Kara, right? Xenon's ex-girlfriend? She even said without any sense of propriety, damn. Are you with Hector now? You're really a top-tier idol collector. Sister. Everyone's eyes were on me, including Hector. The smile in his eyes gradually faded. Although Hector in this life didn't know me, he didn't like Xenon very much either. Kara? The man pushed through the crowd and walked up to me. His tone full of cautious flattery. Kara, I've been looking for you everywhere. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't rested well for a long time. He lowered his head, with no trace of his former sharpness. Kara, awaido. Let's stop arguing. Will you come home with me? But all my attention was still on Hector. Seeing his hand drop and not take the glass of wine, I let out a sigh of relief. We broke up, I said softly. I'm an employee of Hector's studio now. Xenon looked at Hector and an incredulous expression appeared on his face. The bodyguard, right? I saw you on TV. But I wasn't sure because you cut your hair and were wearing a mask. He grabbed my wrist tightly. Kara. Are you crazy? You have asthma. People around were watching the drama. I didn't want to entangle with him in this place. My illness has improved a lot. And I would never be as stupid as in the previous life, not cherishing my body for an unworthy man. I took my medicine on time, saw the doctor on time, and exercised every day. In this new life, I will listen to my parents. I want to live beautifully and healthily. The rich girl said, You're really amazing. Every one of your boyfriends is a top-tier idol in the industry. Write a book. Sister? Xenon said in an unquestionable tone, Come with me. Ignoring my resistance, he pulled me and walked outside. Suddenly, a wine glass was thrown over. It narrowly missed Xenon's face and exploded on the wall behind him. This caused a soft exclamation from the girls. Hector stood up and walked over slowly. Hey, handing fulfilled wide session. Man. He smiled faintly. Do you think I'm dead? What are you doing holding my girlfriend's hand? As expected of him. He was always the most loyal Hector. This hadn't changed at all. I gave him a grateful look. Hector turned his head to look at me. And his eyes seemed to say, We'll settle the score with you later. I trembled for no reason. This look in Hector's eyes. In the previous life, when he first heard that the person I liked was Xenon, it had appeared. He was so angry that he slammed the door and left, blocking all my contact information. 3 days later, he unblocked me. His tone softened a bit. But he was still very dissatisfied with Simon. Can't you find someone else to date? Does that guy deserve you? At that time, I just thought it was the feeling of a friend hating that I couldn't make progress. But I never expected. All emotions had their origins. I broke free from Xenon's hand and resolutely walked towards Hector. But then I suddenly heard Xenon say again, "He doesn't remember you anymore." Kara. What's the point of all this? I was struck like by lightning. I looked back in surprise. Xenon was reborn too? Xenon's perspective. Kara died. Right in that house I didn't often go to. Nina said she had a high fever. And my friends asked me to go over. When I reached the gate, I suddenly felt inexplicably flustered and returned to the house. The party hadn't ended yet. Someone found Kara having an asthma attack on the second floor. Her body was still warm. But she had lost her vitality. When I went to hold her, I realized she had lost a lot of weight. Models had to be thin originally. But now she was so thin that she was just skin and bones. She was curled up, lying motionless on the cold ground. Her phone was right next to her hand. Later, the doctor said that she could still talk when she answered the phone. But why didn't she call for help? Was it because she couldn't speak? Or did she never want to see me again? Kara was lying in the cold morgue. She had no family left. I didn't even have the right to claim her body. Hector, who had liked her for a long time, rushed back. He was acting crazy and didn't seem to be in his right mind. Hector might seem crazy, but in fact, he's just a coward. He liked Kara but never dared to tell her. Who cares about him? Anyway, having so stilled my obsession. Kara was mine. Even in death, she was still my fiancée. They all said that Kara was a substitute for Nina. With so many people saying it, sometimes I would think so too. But actually, they were different in every way. Nina was lively, while Kara was gentle. Nina could smash a wine bottle in a bar and confront several hooligans head-on. But Kara, whenever she was wronged and cried because of me, she would always hide alone and cry. 3 days after Kara left, I still hadn't shed a tear. I just felt cold in the house. A coldness that seeped out slowly from the bones. It was the same no matter how many places I changed. Even when I was drinking and having fun with a large group of friends in the liveliest nightclub. Do I really not like Kara at all? I'm such a jerk. When I was packing her belongings, I finally found her hospital discharge certificate. It turned out that not long after her parents died, she had developed severe depression. There was a thick stack of forms. I asked a friend who had undergone electrovoc therapy. On the other end of the phone, he let out a long sigh. That's really not something a person can endure. Xenon. Even though we're good buddies, I still have to say, you're really a scoundrel in this matter with Kara. It took a lot of courage for that little girl to start a new life. But you pushed her back into the abyss again. You're really a beast. 12 electrovoc therapies. She endured them all alone. She was so delicate and prone to crying. How did she bear it? I clearly wanted to draw a clear line with Nina and make things clear that day. Why couldn't Kara just wait for me a little longer? On the 7th day after Kara's death, I woke up in the huge room. I had been drinking alone in the house all night. My head hurt as if it was about to explode. Subconsciously, I turned over and touched the pillow. Darling, my head hurts so much. Help me massage it. In a trance, it seemed that a pair of hands gently rubbed my temples. I opened my eyes suddenly. The room was empty. Suddenly, like I was possessed, I ran to the bathroom. Kara's tooth mug, toothbrush, towel, and skincare products were all still there. But she just couldn't come back. A huge sense of grief swept over my whole body. I hugged the clothes she had changed out of last and slowly sat down on the ground. Only then did the tears rush out crazily. I cried hysterically. The whole house was filled with my crying. She was really gone. Her things were all still there. But I could never see her again. Like I was possessed, I locked myself at home. Cut off contact with the outside world. I lay in bed, neither eating nor drinking, hugging Kara's clothes. It seemed that as long as I held them like this, she would always be there and never leave. I don't know how long I spent in the house, living in a reversed day-night cycle. Suddenly, one day when I opened my eyes again, I was actually reborn. This time, I would never let her leave me again. Kara's perspective Xenon was really reborn. No wonder his attitude was so strange after I broke up with him this time. So, was his attitude out of pity for me or self-blame? I didn't know. And I didn't want to know either. He said Hector didn't remember me. That didn't matter either. I had a rough life. He was the only sweetness left in my life. Even if he didn't remember me, I still wanted to save his life. I just took one last look at Xenon and still walked back to Hector's side. As a result, this party ended unhappily. But fortunately, most of the people were from the entertainment industry and wouldn't broadcast today's conflict. I crossed out the event on the form. In one more month, Hector would go abroad. Had all his crises passed? At least the drug scandal one had. After Hector and I left the party that day, I called the police immediately. Hector asked me, "Wasn't your ex-boyfriend still there? Are you sure calling the police won't affect him?" I thought for a while. The innocent will be proven innocent. If he has nothing to hide, he will explain it clearly soon. And he had Nina by his side. When Hector was facing a huge online violence in his previous life, he was all alone. After calling the police, sure enough, contraband drugs were found at the drinking party on the spot. It was brought by a girl. The result was quite unexpected. It was one of the rich girls. And Hector went to the police station with my company that night to cooperate with the inspection. He effectively refuted the rumors and counterattacked before they spread everywhere. After seeing the news, Hector got interested and cornered me in the workroom. "Little bodyguard, could you really be someone who traveled through time to save me?" I chuckled. "I'm just more sensitive to these things. Otherwise, how could I be a bodyguard?" He thought about it and seemed to be convinced by my explanation. When I was trying to squeeze out from under his arm, he stopped me again. "Wait. What did Xenon say that I don't remember something? What does that mean?" He scratched his messy hair and frowned, asking seriously, "Kara, do we actually know each other?" "Yes, hadn't fossil wide sesh. We knew each other in the previous life. You even followed the footsteps of a stupid girl's death and committed suicide for her. But such words would sound like a fantasy if spoken out. Moreover, our past was mixed with too many unbearable and painful memories. I hoped he would never remember those unhappy things and my death. What's more, in this life, Hector seemed to have a girl he liked. Cindy. She used to be a member of Hector's band. She was very talented and had a unique personality. After Hector went solo and established his studio, Cindy would always write songs and send demos to him. There was no such person as Cindy before. And in this life, Cindy suddenly appeared. It was as if she was arranged by heaven to be by Hector's side. A perfect girl born to accompany him. I looked at his handsome and unrestrained face and smiled. Maybe we knew each other in a previous life? The door behind me was pushed open. Cindy walked in briskly with a smile, holding several handwritten musical scores in her hand. I said softly, "However, living in the present is the most important thing." Cindy called out to him and handed him the newly written musical scores to look at. Hector got interested and picked up the guitar to improvise. While they were chatting enthusiastically, I quietly left the workroom. Half a month later, Hector participated in an outdoor variety show. I dressed up as a male bodyguard and entered the production team with him. Hector couldn't stop laughing when he saw me fully armed. "Is there a villain trying to assassinate me?" I had a serious expression. "There might really be," Hector hissed. He stopped questioning. After all, my previous performances and incidents had proven that I wasn't being overly alarmist. Hector was called away to go over the script and lines with other artists. I looked at his back. My mood was inexplicably heavy. I even wanted to cry. During this period, every day I could dream about what had happened to Hector in the previous life. In my dreams, I became a wandering soul again. But from the perspective of an outsider, I drifted through Hector's life experiences, watching his life up close. At the age of 12, the talented Hector became popular on the internet with an original single. From then on, he embarked on the path to fame. At the age of 13, Hector couldn't go to school like a normal person. He could only receive tutoring from a private home teacher at home every day. His mother arranged a full schedule of trips and performances for him, so that his youth was almost spent in the company and on business. When he refused to cooperate, his mother would force him to take off his shirt and stand barefoot in a room without heating with a stick. As a teenager, Hector didn't know how to resist, but that was his only mother. He couldn't resist. At the age of 15, Hector had written a popular golden song that won a major award, but he still didn't have any free time to stop and catch his breath. At the age of 18, Hector was admitted to a top music academy abroad. By then, Hector's mother had accumulated huge wealth because of her son and established her own talent agency in the country. The company was busy, and she couldn't keep an eye on Hector all the time. Hector finally got a short period of free space. When Hector was 22 years old, he left his mother's company and returned to the country to establish his own studio. His mother used her connections and money to bribe domestic media, smearing him as an ungrateful and stubborn white-eyed wolf. After half a year of being cursed and boycotted across the internet, Hector once again broke through the encirclement with his new song and reached the top again with his strength. In his short 20-odd years, he had experienced many things that ordinary people might never experience in their entire lives. And when I woke up from the dream, the pillow was soaked with my tears. Except for what I knew from the internet, he had never let me know anything about the hardships he had suffered. The heavy snow blocked the mountain, and the shooting schedule would be extended. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the entrance. Xenon. Several staff members ran past me and screamed, "Aha! It's really him. Isn't he filming a drama? Why is he here?" A girl covered her face. "I'm so lucky to be in the same group as Xenon and Hector in my lifetime." Ah! Someone walked up to me and clicked their tongue. "Oh no, he's here for the two of us." I was amused by Hector. I motioned for him not to worry, I'll make it clear to him. I won't cause you any trouble. But Hector suddenly changed the topic. "You don't like him?" I shook my head, "Not anymore. Hector, actually, I also have someone I like. I can see her in my dreams every day." I forced a smile. "Well, that's great. Hector, Kara. I'm going abroad next month and will stay there for a long time." I knew. The studio had arranged for him to enter the European and American markets starting from the second half of the year, with a new style of music and a new image. But now, this plan included Cindy. I tried my best to raise the corners of my mouth and smiled with the most relaxed expression. "I wish you a bright and smooth career." He also curved his lips and reached out to ruffle my short hair again. "Thanks, little bodyguard." After Xenon joined the production team, he didn't bother me too much, but I could tell that he still hadn't completely given up. One night in the middle of the night, I had a stomachache and got out of the tent to find some hot water to drink. I happened to run into Xenon. When he saw me holding a thermos cup, he came over and naturally wanted to take it. I shrank my hand back. He lowered his eyes, looked at me, and said in a low voice, "There's hot water in my RV." I had a stomachache, and my lips were a little pale. The altitude in the mountains was also a bit high. I turned around and took a big puff of the inhaler to calm my breathing. He had already gone back to the RV. When he came down, he had a thermos flask and a bag of warm baby stickers in his hand. "You're not feeling well and still working so hard. Is Hector really that good?" He reached out his hand. I only took the thermos flask. I didn't answer him. But he suddenly laughed at himself and said, "Well, consider it my nonsense. He is indeed better than me. But Kara, since God has given me this opportunity, it means I have a chance to make up for you properly." The moonlight was as gentle as water. The ice-blue moonlight enveloped us. But there was not the slightest trace of an ambiguous atmosphere between us. My voice was calm. "How do you want to make up for it? Give me my life back?" He was at a loss for words. There was no trace of emotion left in my eyes. I just turned around and left. He suddenly called out to me again, "Kara." There was a somewhat paranoid look on his face. "Will you forgive me if I give you your life back? What do you think, Xenon?" I asked him back, "The reason you are so focused on me now is just that a substitute of yours has died and thus been promoted to the mosquito blood in your heart. In the past, you just enjoyed the chase and company of the white rose and a red rose. You don't love anyone. You only love yourself. My voice was calm and composed. Xenon. I don't hate you. Because what I hate is myself. I hate myself for falling for you. I hate myself for missing more important people because of someone like you. What's more? I glanced at him and then at my own hand. Who knows if this is just a dream? I chose to turn around and leave again. He unwillingly took another step forward to chase after me. I threw out a dagger and it stabbed into the snow. Just a few millimeters away from his foot. Xenon. You probably haven't really seen me lose my temper. He finally stopped in his tracks. The next day, having fulfilled riot session, the artists were divided into 3 groups to complete their tasks respectively. Hector was in a group with Xenami artists. They needed to cross the snow mountain within the specified time and deliver the supplies to the cabin of the mountain keeper. Just a short while after they set off, I heard the complaints of the female artist through Hector's earpiece. It's so cold. Who came up with this task? Can I give up? I asked Hector. Are you cold? Hector replied infuriately, no. I reminded him, follow the guide. Don't take shortcuts to save time. I'll wait for you at the cabin of the mountain keeper. He gave a hum in response. Suddenly he joked, you care about me so much? Why do I feel there's a bit of an ambiguous atmosphere between us? My face turned red instantly. You're my boss. It's normal for me to care about you. Hector was breathing a bit heavily on the other end. The altitude must be getting higher and higher. After a while, he stopped. Little bodyguard. How about you come with me to the boat? Suddenly the signal was interrupted. Hector's voice disappeared from the earpiece. The signal was clearly only a few hundred meters away from the cabin. Xenon and the others had already arrived safely. Xenon. He fell into an ice cave. He's okay. The rescue team is almost here. I couldn't wait for the professional rescue team to arrive. I shook off Xenon's hand, put on my equipment, and plunged into the snow mountain. In an ice cave 2 or 3 meters high, there were 2 staff members standing beside it. Hector had blood on his forehead and didn't look in a good state. I fixed the rope and quickly slid down. Hector? Can you move? Hector opened his eyes and then closed them again, weakly saying, cold. I wrapped a thermal blanket around him, simply treated his forehead, and squatted down to hug him. Are you still cold? Hector lifted his eyelids and glanced at me. His voice listless. Why are you crying? Little bodyguard? I wiped my face. It's just the snow melting on my face. I gently groped around his body. Did you hurt anywhere? Does it hurt here? He shook his head. I pinched his leg bone again. How about here? He shook his head again. I didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Hector. Don't scare me. Don't fall asleep. How did you fall? Why weren't you walking properly? He slowly fumbled in his pocket and took out a small thing. When I saw it, my tears flowed even more fiercely. You fell just to pick up this thing? In the palm of his hand lay a somewhat old little rabbit keychain. Hector moved a bit, and the pain made him lie back down again. I can't remember who gave it to me. When I was a kid, one day when I woke up, this little thing was hanging on my school bag. It seems very important. No. He was speaking a bit confused. It is very important. Hector passed out. The rescue team also arrived soon. After he was carried up on a stretcher, I stared blankly. I clenched the little rabbit keychain in the palm of my hand. Hector interrupted the shooting of the variety show and advanced due to a mild concussion. In the hospital, I sat on the sofa next to him and watched over him. I had another dream. And this dream was the key to truly unraveling the mystery. It let me know what else had happened to Hector in the previous life. Even though everything that happened in this dream was dark, filthy, having fulfilled me, and dirty. Hector's perspective in the previous life. I'm Hector. I like music and everything related to music. What I see, hear, and imagine in my mind, they seem to be able to take on the form of living musical notes at any time. When I was 12, a song I casually composed became popular all over the country. My mother started taking me to shows, variety programs endlessly, and running around between major entertainment companies. I had been reluctant to sign a contract with a company for a long time, because she thought the offer from the other party was too low. My mother always wore high heels and pulled me out of the office of the other company with her head held high. On the busy street. She bent down and pressed on my shoulder. "Son. You remember. You are the best. Those people who want to sign you for just a few million are all blind." Actually, I didn't care. As long as I could make music and write songs. It didn't matter which company I signed with. Maybe she just wanted me to have a better choice. But gradually, she deviated more and more from my original intention. She wouldn't let me go to school and forced me to practice the piano, play the guitar, and write songs at home every day. She found a tutor for me. I didn't even have the chance to go out and play. When I was 14, she took me to a very popular variety show. In the lounge, that middle-aged host who was quite old came over and leaned close to my face to make lewd jokes with me. I wasn't naive. I immediately understood what he was saying. When the host left, he even touched my buttocks several times. I was terrified. I turned my head and saw my mother standing there. Not reacting at all. Her desires grew bigger and bigger. It seemed that the speed at which I wrote songs and made money couldn't satisfy her anymore. She planned to start her own entertainment company. But our money was far from enough. When I was about to take the college entrance examination at the age of 18, in order to be eligible for the exam, I transferred to a local private high school. There, I met Kara. That girl who usually spoke slowly and softly. She seemed to have a very good temper. No matter who talked to her, she could talk to the other person with a smile. She was completely different from me. My so-called sunshine was all fake. And Kara was as clean and pure as a blank sheet of paper. Until that day when I was cornered by a group of thugs in an alley. They wanted to rob me of my money. The thug, "You're a celebrity. For fuck's sake. You must have at least a few thousand yuan on you. Right?" The money I had on me every day never exceeded 100 yuan. All the money I had earned since my debut had been given to my mother. "What are you doing?" Kara's soft and gentle voice suddenly sounded at the entrance of the alley. This idiot. Kara was beautiful and had a good figure. What if she was by this group of thugs? "Get out," I shouted at her. She retracted the foot that had taken half a step. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my. She was timid enough. I let out a sigh of relief. But in less than 2 minutes, Kara came in again. She tied up her ponytail and zipped up her clothes. She clearly looked very nervous and scared, but the way she knocked down 6 thugs while crying left a deeply shocking impression on me. "Where did you learn that fighting skill?" After we walked out of the alley, Kara was still sniffling, while choking back sobs. She took out her asthma inhaler and took a big puff. She sobbed, "My master, hiccup, has won the world's and a championship trophy." I fell into silence again. She was so cute. I wanted to kiss her. But as soon as I realized this thought, I immediately dismissed it. Among the 100 bans my mother had set for me was, "No dating allowed." But who can say for sure about feelings like liking someone? Kara and I got closer and closer until one day my mother saw us. She didn't say a word. But when we got home, she ordered me to take off my shirt and kneel down. She dipped a willow branch in water and whipped me with it, muttering to herself, "Disgusting. So disgusting. TSK TSK TSK. A few days later. It was my 18th birthday. A stretch limousine picked up my mother and me, and took us to a private manor. There was a dinner party being held at the manor. The people at the dinner party were all big shots in the entertainment industry. And there were even many powerful figures. My mother was overjoyed. "Hector, you perform well today. Mom has found an investment tycoon who is willing to invest in my company. From now on, you will become the brightest star in Mom's company." After the dinner party ended, my mother took me to the top floor. She went into the room. And after just 2 minutes, she came out again. Then she gently pushed me into the room. "Hector, be a good boy." I didn't know what was about to happen at that time. When I turned around and saw the middle-aged man in a bathrobe in the room, I was furious. But I was powerless to resist. Before going up, I drank the drink my mother handed me. As soon as I kicked over a table, I felt something was wrong with my whole body. I was weak all over. But my lower abdomen was extremely hot and restless. When the man came over, He reached out and stroked my cheek. What a perfect face. A masterpiece of God. Hector. After tonight, I will lift you up to the altar. My teeth chattered. And I just felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. But no one saved me. Not even myself. After that night, I tried to commit suicide 4 times in a row, but each time my mother saved me. Until my mother finally said harshly, "Do you like that little girl named Kara? She has a face that's perfect for debuting." Hector. Listen. If you dare to die, I'll find her to be your replacement. This world is full of evil spirits. I had no choice but to walk with the devil. Kara. May you grow freely and unrestrained lie in the sunlight from now on. Don't get even a bit of the filth on me. My love will be forever sealed in my heart. I no longer have the right to unseal it with my own hands. On the day of graduation, Kara ran to my doorstep and stood on tiptoes, looking outside for a long time. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, she put a little rabbit keychain in the flower bed at the door. The maid at home secretly gave it to me when my mother wasn't looking. After graduating from university, I seized the opportunity and successfully broke free from my mother's control. I established my own studio. The days after that started to go smoothly. I saw Kara again, but I learned that she had fallen for another guy. Because of the development of my career, I went abroad again. But this time, at a music exchange event for overseas artists, I saw that man again. The one who made me feel disgustingly dirty all my life. He stimulated that string in me again. My behavior started to become more and more strange. I dyed my hair, shaped my head, shaved my eyebrows, went crazy in public, and wore some strange, colorful, and ill-fitting ugly clothes to attend events. It seemed that only in this way could I vent my emotions. It seemed that only in this way could I protect myself. I'm so tired. Kara. If only I could hug you again. But my Kara. She's dead. When I rushed to the hospital, she was just lying there. Not moving or speaking. It was as if she was just having a sweet and long dream. On the 7th day after Kara died, I took all the saved medicine in one go. Then I lay in the bathtub, afraid that I wouldn't die completely. I also cut my wrists with a razor blade. Kara. Wait for me. I'm coming to find you. I woke up from the dream with a start. It was like a long dream. As if I had lived a whole life. I couldn't stop crying. I bit my hand hard to keep my sobs from disturbing Hector. I fell to my knees on the ground, covering my face. Tears kept streaming out from between my fingers. Suddenly, having fulfilled my, someone reached out and gently placed their hand on my head. Little bodyguard. Hector, who had woken up at some point, had a soft and hoarse voice. I just had a dream. I dreamed that in my previous life, I really liked a girl named Kara. I dreamed that she gave me a little rabbit keychain. I dreamed that after she died, my heart hurt so much that I couldn't breathe. And I also dreamed that that girl was you. I trembled and looked up at him in disbelief. He was also crying, but I also dreamed that she knew about those things that happened to me in my previous life. Kara. You should leave. My whole life. I'm still so dirty and disgusting. I couldn't escape what happened when I was 18. I can't wash it away. I pounced on him and hugged his neck tightly, refusing to let go. You couldn't escape what happened at 18. But we will definitely escape what happens at 25. Hector. It's not you who's disgusting. It's them. It's your mother. It's those bugs and monsters hidden in the entertainment industry. Hector. I'm here to save you. He looked at me blankly, finally dropped his pretense, and also hugged my neck tightly. The boy's voice had a mournful and aggrieved crying tone. Kara. I've been waiting for you for so long. For months later, Hector saw that man again at a New York dinner party. The man looked him up and down with his disgusting and sticky eyes again, and followed him when he saw Hector enter a hotel room upstairs. Half an hour later, the disgusting image of the man and rest appeared on various domestic and foreign websites and social media. The man didn't seem too scared. Do you know how many of these media are my properties? Hector. You're really naive. With my status, I won't be affected by these little scandals at all. Hector took out hundreds of real name sexual harassment and sexual assault accusation lists and threw them into the air. Of course, a little scandal won't do it. But what if there are thousands of scandals? Moreover, in the United States, cases involving minors, I guess, will be of a more serious nature. The door was pushed open, and a large group of policemen rushed in. The man was stunned. Hector, if you do this, your mother won't be able to get away with it either. Hector looked down at his watch and smiled. She should have been arrested too. Let me state again that I have no relationship with Ms. Kinley. When the man was being taken away, he still didn't forget to humiliate Hector. Hector, when I get out, I'll come for you again. Slap. A girl suddenly rushed out from the crowd and nimbly gave him a big slap. The girl looked gentle, but with one slap, the man's whole face went numb. His ears were also buzzing. The girl also threw a stack of lists in his face. The people on the list he recognized. Last year, when he forced a female artist, he accidentally strangled her to death. But this wasn't the first time. He thought he had dealt with it well. I don't think you'll ever get out in this lifetime. Her boyfriend collected evidence for a whole year. He didn't dare to take it out until we came to him. I guess he's been waiting for today. Those who do evil will eventually be punished. The girl walked up to Hector. Hector reached out and put his arm around her shoulder. Kara, silence sometimes doesn't mean cowardice. Accumulate steadily and release suddenly. It will eventually bring the final judgment on the day of its eruption. The man was taken away by the police. Hector put his arm around Kara's waist. My wife is so right. Give me a kiss. Kara was a bit nervous. Are you okay? Hector shrugged. I'm great. Kara, and let's go home? Hector suddenly leaned down and kissed her. Very forcefully. As if he wanted to rub the person in front of him into his body. After a long time, the two separated. Hector curved his lips and smiled, looking relaxed and satisfied. Like a young general who had just won a battle on the ancient battlefield. His emotions were warm and flamboyant. Yeah. Let's go home. In my past life Callum and I always missed each other with regret. After much difficulty we finally got married. On the wedding night, he said he was going to help with construction projects abroad. He left me and disappeared for 10 years without any news. 10 years later he came back with the woman he had liked since he was young. Chevelle. We didn't get a marriage certificate back then. And we didn't consummate the marriage. The wedding was not legal. I'm getting married. It's inappropriate for you to stay in my house any longer. Only then did I realize that the so-called missed opportunities I thought were just his deliberate actions. He had a happy family, was in high spirits, moved into a new house, and married a new wife. But what about me? People say the whole city is full of blooming flowers like a beautiful bouquet, yet I came at a time when spring had passed. If I could live again I would leave without saying goodbye on the wedding day. But he completely broke down at the wedding without a bride. Callum, your little fiancée is here to check up on you again. She's so clingy. As if she's afraid you. This phoenix will fly away? Yeah. Might as well tie you to her belt. Don't talk nonsense. Look. The little girl's face is blushing. I suddenly raised my eyes and looked at the owner of the soft female voice. It was Nanda. She had black hair and fair skin and a slender figure. She smiled sweetly and purely. She was a recognized goddess in the department of architecture. She was also the woman Callum had been thinking about and pursuing all his life in my past life. At this moment I suddenly realized. I was reborn. Reborn to the time before the wedding. When Callum took marriage leave to come back and hold the wedding. And Nanda was the sweetheart he brought back in my past life. At this time she was smiling at me gently. Are you looking for Callum? He'll come downstairs soon. I stood in the sunlight in a daze. Callum had already walked over with a cold face. What are you here for again? He walked through the crowd and stood in front of me. He grabbed my arm and pulled me to a small path aside. I'm having a reunion with my classmates. Do you have to stick around? He pushed his glasses and looked at me with displeasure. Chevelle, there are only 5 days until the wedding. Can you give me the last 5 days of freedom? Dense branches and leaves overhead cast a large area of shade. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the shade, shimmering like broken gold on his face. But in his eyes looking at me there was only coldness like frost and snow. I looked at the man in front of me. The man I had loved for 18 years in my past life. Now he was in the prime of his youth, handsome and refined. But who could have thought that beneath this skin his heart was so cold-blooded and unfeeling? I withdrew my gaze, lowered my eyes, and smiled. Sorry, Callum. I won't bother you anymore. After saying that I turned around and prepared to leave. But Callum grabbed my arm again. What kind of temper are you throwing now? I've already agreed to marry you. What else are you not satisfied with? I suddenly turned around and shook off his hand. Callum was a little stunned, but soon the disgust in his eyes became even stronger. Chevelle. If you keep making trouble, we might as well cancel the wedding. I took a deep breath. Swallowed all the unwillingness, grievance, hatred, and bitterness surging in my chest. I would return to him exactly what he had done to me in my past life. So, when I spoke again, I softened my tone. When looking at him, there was also a hint of grievance in my eyes. I'm not making trouble. I just had some questions about the wedding and wanted to ask for your opinion. So I came. Callum waved his hand to interrupt me before I could finish. I have no opinion. I said before. Just do it according to your preference. Okay. Then I won't ask you about the following procedures. It seemed that because I was being very obedient, or perhaps because there was still a little bit of guilt in his heart, Callum suddenly reached out and rubbed the top of my head. All right. I'll come back early tonight to have dinner with you. I put on a happy look. Okay. I'll wait for you. Callum couldn't help but smile. But in an instant, he frowned and put away his smile. I pretended not to notice and left happily. It was not until I walked a long way, that I slowly squatted down under the shade of a tree, letting my tears pour out. At dinner time, Callum came back. But not alone. He brought Nanda with him. In my past life, he had always hidden his feelings. And I knew nothing about his love for Nanda. In this life, before marrying me, he couldn't control his eagerness. Nanda greeted everyone in Callum's family with a charming smile. And she gave each of them a beautifully wrapped gift. Nanda was beautiful, elegant, and dignified, standing beside the tall, slender, and gentle-looking Callum. They were a perfect match. And I seemed like an outsider who didn't belong. Chevelle. This is for you. Wish you and Callum a happy wedding. Nanda walked up to me and handed me the gift. I took it generously and thanked her. She seemed a little surprised by my reaction, pursed her lips, and the smile in her eyes gradually faded. Chevelle. Go and prepare the meal quickly. Callum's mother naturally ordered me, just like she had done countless times before. I put down the gift and raised my finger with a band-aid on it. I said lightly. I accidentally cut my hand in the morning. I can't cook tonight. Jasper rolled his eyes. You're so delicate. Just because you cut your hand, you can't cook? Mia echoed. I think you just want to be lazy. Callum's mother looked at me, smiled, and said, Chevelle is going to be a bride. Of course. The bride is delicate. I guess this old woman has to do it. Nanda quickly followed her to the kitchen. Auntie. Since Chevelle's hand is injured, let me help you. How can that be? You're a guest. It's okay, Auntie. I'll just help with the preparations. Soon Nanda came out with the cooked dishes. Chevelle. Come and take the dishes. I have to go back to help Auntie peel the onions. She naturally asked me to help. I stood up and was about to take the plate. But before my hand touched it, the plate suddenly overturned. The scalding fish pieces spilled all over Nanda, especially on her bare calves, which instantly turned red. She let out a cry, squatted down, and covered her calf. Tears welled up in her eyes. Chevelle. Did you do that on purpose? Callum was furious and pushed me aside. I stumbled a few steps and fell to the ground. My palm happened to press on the sticky fish pieces, and the sharp fish bones pierced my skin. My forehead also hit the edge of the table hard. Callum carefully helped Nanda up. Then he looked at me coldly. Apologize to Nanda right now. I endured the intense pain and stood up unsteadily. Blood dripped from my palm, staining my skirt. A shocking sight. Callum seemed to be stunned for a moment. Then the coldness gradually filled his eyes as he looked at me. Chevelle. Apologize. Callum. It's okay. Chevelle didn't mean not to take the plate. Nanda quickly tugged at his sleeve and gently dissuaded him. Chevelle. Did you hear what I said? I said. Apologize to Nanda. What if I don't want to? Then I'll cancel the wedding immediately. Callum stood up and looked down at me. Chevelle. You know my temper. What I say, I won't take back. Nanda stood behind him. When I looked at her, she secretly curled her lips into a smile. I knew she was provoking me. She didn't want me to apologize. She wanted the wedding to be cancelled. She wanted to marry Callum. She didn't want to marry someone she didn't love and had taken many detours. She only got her wish in her second marriage. But I didn't let her have her way. Okay. I'll apologize. I pursed my lips. With tears in my eyes. My face showed both grievance and fear. And the moment I apologized, Callum obviously relaxed a little. Although soon, a day soon, he turned cold again. Don't let it happen again. He took the first aid kit that Jasper brought. He glanced at me coldly. The wedding is just a few days away. Behave yourself. I lowered my head and wept silently. Looking timid and scared. Callum carefully treated Nanda's injury and then said gently. I'd better take you to the hospital to have a look. In case there are scars. Is it inconvenient? Chevelle might not be happy. No. It was her fault in the first place. Callum said. Then gave me an extremely cold look. She caused trouble. And I have to clean up after her. What right does she have to be unhappy? That night, Callum didn't come back. A strange number sent me several messages. He's worried about my injury. Afraid I'll be in pain. And will stay with me tonight. Go to bed early. Don't wait in vain. New bride. She was right. I really should go to bed early. There were still many things waiting for me to deal with. Such as the old houses and shops left by my parents. And the inheritance they left me. I would hand the houses over to a reliable real estate agent for sale. And after liquidating and organizing all the inheritance, I would take it all away. Not a single cent would be left to Callum's family. The day before the wedding, I had to try on the wedding dress and bridal gown again for the final adjustments. In my past life, Callum just casually tried on the groom's suit and then left. This time, he actually didn't leave. Even after I finished trying on the main wedding dress, he was still sitting on the sofa outside. When I came out, a flash of amazement clearly appeared in his eyes. The waistline seems a bit loose. It would look better if we tighten it a little more, the stylist said softly. Callum asked colored. Indeed, Chevelle has a slender waist. Let's tighten it a bit more. But I shook my head. No need. This is more comfortable. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession, I won't be wearing it. So it doesn't matter if it's big or small. When you first came to our home as a child, you cried every day and every night, he said as he got up and walked over, putting his arms around my waist from behind. In a blink of an eye, you've grown into a beautiful young lady. Chevelle. We're getting married. He lowered his head, his eyes filled with affection as he tried to kiss me. But I raised my hand to block it. There are people here. I put on a shy look. Callum chuckled. Very pleased. Then we'll wait until our wedding night, he whispered in my ear. I lowered my head and smiled sardonically without a sound. Tradition has it that the bride and groom shouldn't see each other the night before the wedding. I have no parental home. So I was staying in a hotel. When Callum dropped me off downstairs, his phone rang. It should be Nanda calling. He seemed distracted. I deliberately put on a jealous and aggrieved expression. Callum raised an eyebrow. Come on. Tomorrow is the wedding. Don't give me a hard time over trivial things. Then come pick me up early tomorrow. I looked up at him, my eyes full of unease and anticipation. Callum was clearly enjoying it. I'll come at the auspicious time. Don't worry. With that, he left in a hurry. I immediately turned around and went upstairs. I checked my bank cards and passbooks one last time and made a few calls to the real estate agents. Then I took a shower and went to bed. I had a dreamless night. Callum, however, had some trouble sleeping. He took a short nap just before dawn. But somehow, he dreamt of Chevelle. In the dream was the scene of her trying on the wedding dress yesterday. Every frown, Every smile, every movement was beautiful. Before he realized it, Chevelle had quietly transformed into a beautiful girl. Her waist was slender. Her skin was fair. Although she wasn't as tall as Nanda, she was cute and petite. Unlike Nanda, who was skinny, she still had the youthfulness and plumpness of a girl. The scenes in the dream were a bit indecent. This seemed to be the first time he had such absurd desires for Chevelle, whom he had always looked down upon. When he was woken up by the phone, Callum felt inexplicably irritated. He even thought about whether he should postpone his departure by one day. Should he wait until after the wedding night before leaving? At least, since she had loved him for so many years, it could be considered a meager return. But the voice on the phone made him instantly sober. What did you say? The bride is missing? He suddenly stood up, and his fingers gripping the phone were slightly trembling. That's impossible. Did you go to the wrong room? No. Mr. Gu, we didn't go to the wrong room. The front desk said that room was checked out 2 hours ago. Miss Chevelle's phone can't be reached either. The makeup artist was almost crying. Callum felt a harsh buzzing in his ears, like the clashing of weapons in battle. It took him a while to find his voice. I'll call her. Please wait for a moment. But Chevelle's phone couldn't be reached. Callum rummaged through his contacts randomly, not knowing who to call. He didn't have the contact information of any of Chevelle's friends or relatives. He knew nothing about her. Over the years, she had been chasing after him wholeheartedly. He had always been certain that he had her firmly in his grasp. So even at this moment, he still couldn't believe that Chevelle would dare to leave him. Callum haphazardly put on his clothes and drove to the hotel himself. On the way, he was so flustered that he ran to read lights. When he was almost at the hotel, he called Chevelle again, but still couldn't get through. His heart sank uncontrollably. Just then, Wilson, the makeup artist phone call came in again. Mr. Callum, the bride has been found. It was just a misunderstanding. Callum felt his heart suddenly settle down. The thick haze weighing on his heart seemed to be suddenly swept away by a big hand. He braked the car sharply and stopped by the roadside. His voice was a bit shaky. Say that again. Mr. Callum, the bride has been found. She said she didn't sleep well last night and changed rooms temporarily. The makeup artist said something else, but Callum didn't really hear it clearly. He leaned back in the car seat and suddenly laughed. He was really crazy. Chevelle loved him so deeply. So how could she run away from the wedding? What was even crazier was that he had almost believed it just now. It was really funny and absurd. Before the wedding, the Callum family had someone calculate the 8 characters of the couple's birth dates. Due to some taboos, the groom couldn't go to pick up the bride in person. When the wedding convoy that had picked up the bride returned to the wedding venue, Callum had already changed into a well-pressed and expensive black suit, holding a bouquet of flowers and standing downstairs. But when the groomsmen got out of the car, their expressions were different. And the originally arranged bridesmaids didn't show up. The bride was sitting in the car, her face covered by a white veil. Only a hazy and beautiful side profile could be faintly seen. Callum originally thought he wouldn't be very excited. After all, marrying Chevelle was something he was a bit reluctant about. But somehow, when he saw the bride in the car, an inexplicable ripple rose in his heart. Under that indescribable emotion, there seemed to be a hidden joy surging. He thought of how beautiful and charming Chevelle looked when she tried on the wedding dress for the last time. He thought of her eyes looking at him tenderly and affectionately. A soft and gentle feeling seemed to quietly grow in his heart. Besides achieving success in his career, a woman's unwavering love for many years could also make a man extremely proud and satisfied. He held the bouquet and slowly walked to the car. The groomsmen were all his classmates and old friends. At this moment, they seemed to want to say something to him, but held back in the end. The car door opened, and Callum stretched out his hand. Chevelle. He didn't know that when he said her name, there was already a faint smile in his eyes. The fingers wrapped in white lace were soft and slender, gently falling into his palm. Callum immediately held it. But at the moment he held it, a strange feeling suddenly rose in his heart. This didn't seem to be Chevelle's hand. Her fingers were softer. And her hand was softer too. He could hold it perfectly in his palm. Just then, The bride also turned around and got out of the car, looking at Callum shyly through the snow-white veil. However, the moment their eyes met, Callum suddenly shook off the hand he was holding, as if all the color rained from his face in an instant, and all around, there was a deathly silence. Nanda was first stunned, then couldn't believe it. In the end, her eyes were red with grievance and embarrassment. The bouquet in Callum's hand dropped. He turned around, grabbed someone randomly, and asked hoarsely, "What's going on? Where's Chevelle? Didn't you go to the hotel to pick her up? You didn't even notice you picked the wrong person? What are you good for?" His emotions suddenly got out of control, and his voice suddenly rose a notch. "We don't know either. When we went to pick up the bride, there was only Nanda in the room. Yeah. We didn't see Chevelle at all." Callum turned around, his eyes fixed on the makeup artist. "Didn't you say the bride was found? Is this what you call found?" "Callum. Mr. Callum. It's not my fault." The makeup artist was about to cry. She was just an employee. What could she do? If Miss Nanda hadn't said that she would take all the responsibility, she wouldn't have dared to tell such a lie. She just wanted to earn this money. "Callum. It has nothing to do with her. It was my arrangement." Nanda got out of the car. She stood up straight, her eyes very red, but her face was calm and composed. "Chevelle is missing. And the wedding is about to start. I didn't want you to be embarrassed. So I came up with this idea. If you want to blame someone, blame me. If you want to scold, scold me. It has nothing to do with anyone else." At this point, she suddenly lowered her head slightly, and the tears she had been holding back fell. Nanda then gave a sad smile. "I like you so much that I did something stupid. Callum, why don't we just make the best of this mistake? Don't you also have a crush on Nanda? Besides, Nanda and you share the same ideals. Isn't she much better than your little child bride? On such an important day as the wedding." She just laughed in a fit of pique. "Do you really want to invite her back with a grand ceremony? Who knows what kind of trouble she'll cause in the future? The auspicious time is coming soon. Callum, make a decision quickly." Everyone was talking all at once. Nanda gradually stopped sobbing, and there was a hint of anticipation in her eyes as she looked at Callum. Callum stood still for a long time. Then he slowly turned around and looked at everyone. Nanda in the white wedding dress was very beautiful. He didn't deny that he and Nanda did share the same ideals. He had a crush on Nanda during their day-to-day interactions. But he also always knew that the person he was going to marry was Chevelle. He had already regarded her as his wife in his heart, even though he had also gradually thought that Chevelle was no longer worthy of him. But he never thought of breaking the engagement. Instead, he let her cling to him. But Callum never expected. He didn't have the heart to dump Chevelle. He was fulfilling the promise to hold a wedding with her. Even though he was hiding from her the fact that he was going abroad for aid work. But he had also decided to postpone his departure for a few days. To give her a perfect wedding and a wedding night. If he was lucky, she would have a child. From then on, she could also gain a firm foothold in the Callum family. He thought he wouldn't have let down the kindness of her family and her love for so many years. But now, Chevelle had disappeared on the eve of the wedding. Callum couldn't figure it out. Where did she get the courage to make such a scene with him? Just because he got a bit closer to Nanda. Just because that day in the Callum family, he had protected the scalded Nanda and blamed her? But where did she, Chevelle, get the confidence to act like this towards him? Was she not afraid that this marriage would be completely cancelled? Or did she think that relying on the kindness of her parents, she could really do whatever she wanted and play with him at will? Callum had never been so angry and lost his composure in his life. He even thought that maybe he should just go along with what his friends said and make the best of a bad situation. Just marry Nanda directly. But for some reason, looking at the beautiful and elegant Nanda in front of him, the wedding dress she was wearing was the main one chosen by Chevelle. She was a bit taller than Chevelle, yet thinner. As a result, the waist was looser, and the chest area was rather empty. He couldn't help but think of how Chevelle looked when she tried on the wedding dress yesterday. She stood in front of him, with a delicate and slender figure, but with full curves. He had really been amazed at that time. Chevelle usually dressed quite plainly, mostly in loose and casual styles. So he had no idea that she could be so beautiful when dressed up. Callum. Seeing that he was standing there motionless for a long time, Nanda couldn't help but call out softly. But Callum suddenly raised his hand, tore off the groom's boutonniere on his chest, and casually threw it on the ground. Chevelle is suddenly not feeling well. Let's postpone the wedding. After saying that, without looking at anyone, not even Nanda, he directly turned around and left. Nanda stood there in shock. Gradually, deadly, her face turned bright round. Everyone's eyes were on her face and body. Some showed sympathy and felt unjust for her, but more seemed to be waiting to see her make a fool of herself. Nanda was trembling all over, and the tips of her fingers were ice cold and trembling constantly. She had never experienced such humiliation in her life. Even though her family background was ordinary, she had managed to get into a university in the capital through her own efforts. As the department beauty of the Department of Architecture, she had always been the center of attention among the boys. Callum had also been constantly attentive to her on a daily basis. But this man, whom she had treated like a lapdog, actually made her lose face so much in full view of everyone. Why? Nanda roughly tore off her veil. As her tears burst out, she threw the veil hard on the ground. It was not until I got on the plane leaving that I finally let out a long sigh of relief. The plane soared into the high clouds. Leaning back in my seat, I gently closed my eyes. Everything that was like a nightmare in my previous life came to a temporary end at this moment. I didn't know what the future held, but I only knew one thing. After staying away from this ungrateful family, my future would only become brighter and brighter. When I was 5 years old, my parents died in an earthquake. At the most critical moment, they pushed Callum out with all their might, saving his life. So, the Callum family naturally adopted me as a way to repay the kindness. They also arranged a marriage between me and Callum to ensure my life's security. But as I grew up, this kindness changed. As Callum's future became promising, I, an orphan girl, became the lucky one who was climbing up to the Callum family. Later, Callum went abroad to assist in construction and never sent any news. I sold the house left to me by my parents to treat Callum's mother's illness. She was paralyzed for 5 years. And I took good care of her for 5 years. After that, Callum's younger siblings got married, had children. She said that an elder sister-in-law was like a mother. I willingly took out my parents' inheritance. When Mia got married, it was me who gave her the confidence with a 360 Zuriyuan dowry. When she gave birth to a daughter, I gave her a 60 Zuriyuan red envelope to save face. When she was subjected to domestic violence, I helped her seek justice, fought the divorce lawsuit, and personally picked her and the child up and brought them back to her parents' home. But in the end, when Callum wanted to drive me away, it was also her who said disapprovingly, "We've raised you for more than 10 years. Our family has already paid off the kindness your family showed. To repay the kindness, we even sacrificed Big Brother's happiness for a lifetime. If you have any conscience, hurry up and make way for my sister-in-law." Later, when Callum came back with Nanda, it was also her and her mother who agreed to their marriage and happily accepted Nanda. They also tacitly approved Callum's decision to drive me away. In fact, Callum had been sending money back for 10 years. In fact, he and Nanda had already lived together and had children in a foreign country. Everyone in the Callum family knew this. Only I was kept in the dark and was squeezed out of the last bit of my use value. In the end, I died miserably of an incurable illness. Thinking about all this, I just felt it was extremely ridiculous. If my parents knew this in the underworld, would they regret risking their lives to save Callum back then? I would never know the answer to this. And I, who had lived to lifetimes, no longer expected that good people would be rewarded. Callum made countless phone calls but couldn't get through. And all the phone numbers of the Callum family members were also blocked and deleted by Chevelle. Callum's mother didn't take it seriously at first. "Callum, don't go looking for her. Which new daughter-in-law would dare to make such a big fuss and put on such airs? She's just being coy, trying to make you yield. We won't give in." In her opinion, Chevelle was a helpless orphan girl. She was head over heels in love with her son, whom she regarded as her pride. She simply couldn't really run away. Making such a scene now was just to vent her anger. How could she be willing to give up such a great marriage? Callum stood by the window but didn't move for a long time. He had an ominous premonition. Chevelle wasn't just making trouble with him. Nor was she using a retreat as an advance. She was really angry. Really didn't want to marry him anymore. The kiss that was pushed away when trying on the wedding dress yesterday. Last night, when he sent her back to the hotel. She was so obedient and sensible. Urging him to leave. No longer like before. Where the slightest sign of trouble would make her anxiously look for him and cry. She was overly vigilant towards everyone of the opposite sex who appeared around him. She cared about him so much that it gradually annoyed him. So he had applied to go abroad to assist in construction without telling her. The kindness that should be repaid was repaid. He didn't owe her anything and could leave with a clear conscience. He could pursue another life he wanted. But he never expected that the one who would leave first at the wedding would be Chevelle. "Mom. What about my gold jewelry?" Mia suddenly spoke up. "You promised me that as soon as she entered the door, you would immediately ask her to buy me a whole set of gold jewelry. Now that she's run away and disappeared, are my gold jewelry going to fly away too?" Callum's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Chevelle's parents had left her a considerable inheritance. Besides houses and shops, there was also a large amount of cash savings. In fact, over the years, on the surface, it was the Callum family that was raising her. But in reality, Callum had heard about how much money the Callum family had spent from Chevelle's family. Now that they couldn't get in touch with Chevelle. But as long as the things in her name were still there, that meant she didn't really want to leave. She was just trying to scare him out of anger. "What are you in a hurry for? When she comes back and begs your brother to marry her, you can just ask her for whatever you want," Callum's mother said casually. But Mia was still pouting. "Who knows when she'll come back? What if she doesn't come back? How could that be? You know how much she likes your brother." "That's true. If it weren't for the fact that she's really sincere to my brother, I wouldn't have agreed to this marriage." Callum suddenly turned around and said, "Mom, you go out and ask someone to find out right away." "Find out what?" "Find out whether the properties in Chevelle's name are still there." Callum's mother immediately got anxious. "Callum, what do you mean by that? If they're all still there, it means Chevelle is just having a tantrum with me this time. If they're all gone." Callum suddenly laughed at himself and didn't say anything further. But Callum's mother immediately understood. She couldn't sit still any longer and rushed out in a hurry. "I'll go and find someone to find out right away. Those few houses of hers and the shops. It won't be easy to sell them off in a short time." "Brother. What exactly do you mean? Could Chevelle really have run away from the wedding?" Mia suddenly got anxious. She had already boasted in front of a group of cousins. Now if Chevelle really ran away from the wedding, wouldn't all her jewelry be gone? Where would she put her face? Callum sneered and looked at her. "What are you in a hurry for? Didn't you always dislike her and not want this sister-in-law? Who would turn their back on money?" "Yeah. Who would turn their back on money?" So, while the Callum family looked down on Chevelle, they still held on to the marriage contract. And he himself, deep down, didn't he think the same way? Chevelle was rich but helpless. All her relatives had died in the earthquake. And she was deeply in love with him. Marrying her would mean that her things would naturally become the Callum family's. So he could safely apply to go abroad to assist in construction without any worries. Mia was despicable and selfish. Wasn't he also such a despicable person? "Brother. She won't really leave, will she?" Callum walked out expressionlessly. "I don't know. Brother. If she really leaves, what should we do?" Mia stomped her feet repeatedly. "Mom said she wanted to change to a villa and has already paid the deposit." Callum sneered. "Whoever wants to change the villa should pay for it." "Brother." Callum slammed the door and left, shutting out the ear-piercing cries behind him. "I went to a southern city that I had always been fond of. When I was applying for universities back then. Since Callum went to Beijing, I chased after him and went to Beijing as well. But actually, my dream university was not the one in Beijing. Now that I have a lot of free time and am financially independent, naturally, I have the conditions to fulfill my dream. After settling down, I directly bought a two-bedroom apartment near that university. After half a month of rest, I started preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. Since I couldn't come to study here as an undergraduate, it would be nice to pursue my postgraduate studies here. In my past life, Callum achieved great success and fame in his career. When he returned, his family was reunited. They moved into a new house, and he married a new wife. He was extremely prosperous. But what about me? People say the whole city is like a brocade of flowers. Yet I came at a time when spring had passed. The spring scenery of the whole city that I missed in my past life. I will make it up for myself in this life. In the second month after I settled down, Callum, who was supposed to go abroad for aid work, suddenly showed up. The spring scenery was beautiful at that time. I had just come out of the school library and saw Callum standing downstairs at a glance. He had become much thinner. But he still stood out in the bustling crowd. If not for this, I wouldn't have poured all my love into him during my innocent girlhood. But now, the person who could make my heart race and my face blush with just a glance. I can look at him with a calm heart without the slightest ripple. I held my books and continued walking forward. Callum called my name in a low voice, Chevelle. What's up? I looked at him with indifferent eyes. Just like looking at any passing stranger. I've been looking for you. What do you want with me? You're my Fang Key. We have an engagement. We're betrothed. It's just an engagement. Not a marriage registration. It's not legally binding. Chevelle. Callum's white shirt was still spotlessly clean. The way he wore glasses used to be my favorite. Now he stood in front of me. Exactly as I used to like him. But what was the point? After you left, I thought a lot. I admit I didn't handle things properly with Nanda. I just admired some of her academic achievements. There was no romantic feeling between us. I've made it clear to Nanda. She went abroad half a month ago and won't come back in the future. Chevelle. I promise there won't be anything like this again. Come back with me. I haven't cancelled the wedding arrangements. As long as you come back, the wedding can be held at any time. Why do you think I'll go back with you? Because I used to like you so much? I looked at him and smiled. Callum, haven't you realized yet? From the moment I left, you mean nothing to me anymore. Chevelle, I know what happened before hurt you. And I've reflected on it. I can swear that nothing happened between me and Nanda. Does that matter? Callum, I don't care at all about what happened between you and Nanda. Because I don't like you anymore. That's impossible. We grew up together. Chevelle, you've liked me for so many years. Just because I liked you for so many years doesn't mean you didn't apply to go abroad for aid work long ago and plan to leave directly on our wedding day. Right? Callum's expression changed drastically. How do you know? I also know that you're going with Nanda. If nothing unexpected happens, you'll build a new home in a foreign country. And I, who was left in China by you, would have been kept in the dark all the time, taking care of your family, fulfilling filial duties, emptying my family fortune, being exploited, and then being kicked out of the house. Is that right, Callum? His face turned deathly pale and he looked at me in horror as if seeing a ghost. But I didn't let him go. I took a slow step forward. If I'm not wrong, is your mother seriously ill? Callum suddenly took a step back. How do you know? Calculating the time. Callum's mother should have just been diagnosed with a serious illness. She was so concerned about Face that she hid it from relatives and friends and the news hadn't spread. So, Callum, did you come to me and ask me to go back because you really knew you were wrong and wanted to make up for me? Or was it just to make me go back and be a nanny to take care of your mother? And by the way, take out the inheritance I got to fill the bottomless pit of your family? How can you think of our Callum family like this? Callum's face turned pale and green. After all, she raised you for more than 10 years. She deserves some credit, doesn't she? Chevelle? The money the Callum family has taken over the years is enough to repay this kindness of raising. Callum, don't come to me again. I have no relationship with the Callum family anymore. And I have nothing to do with you either. After saying that, I walked past him towards the school gate. But Callum wouldn't give up and pestered me again. Chevelle, calm down and think it over. Can you really let go of our feelings of so many years? Yes. I let go a long time ago. Callum, you should let go too. Instead of pestering me here, you'd better find a way to earn more money. After all, there will be a lot of expenses in your family in the future. Chevelle, do you really have to be so heartless? I found it a bit funny, Callum. When your whole family plotted against me, why didn't you show a bit of compassion? But Chevelle, we actually didn't harm you. All of this is just your own speculation. So what? Even if it's just speculation, I'm just nipping this possibility in the bud. Isn't that okay? Chevelle, after all, we know each other well. Can you guarantee that the people you marry in the future won't plot against you? I laughed. Do I only have the way of getting married? Callum stayed in this city for a week. Later, I called the police. And then he left dejectedly. It seemed that he knew I was determined and not to turn back. After he left, he didn't pester me anymore. When I was successfully admitted to postgraduate school, some classmates from my hometown contacted me privately. They said that the Callum family was now in disgrace and on the verge of collapse. Gradually, had until my obsession. More and more insiders started to reveal that their family was ungrateful, heartless, and bullied the only daughter of their benefactor. So Callum's mother got her retribution and was bedridden. Jasper was idle and caused a lot of trouble outside, and he was imprisoned for several months. Mia didn't get into university and found a hooligan boyfriend. Because she didn't want to take care of her mother, she simply moved to her boyfriend's house. The Callum family could only rely on Callum to support them. The huge medical expenses, plus the penalty for the villa that Callum's mother had booked before, emptied Callum's personal savings. He's really in a tough spot now. His former classmates and friends no longer associate with him. After hearing this, I just laughed it off. Without me, their big blood bag, their lives are really difficult now. But what does all this have to do with me? I have a house, a car, and a substantial savings. And I can continue to enjoy my carefree student life. Maybe I'll meet someone I like in the future. Maybe not, and it's also good to live alone. The filthy quagmire of the Callum family can't disgust me anymore. Later, I heard that Callum left the Callum family and got back together with Nanda. He even settled in Shanghai with Nanda. Nanda gave birth to a son for him and their life seemed to be going well. But a few years later Callum returned alone from Shanghai in a sorry state. By that time the Callum family had sold everything they could. All that was left was a shabby rental house. Callum's mother didn't receive treatment and proper care and died last year. Jasper went to Myanmar to engage in telecom fraud and his life or death is unknown. Mia got married early and had 3 children. She was often beaten by her husband. Callum lived alone in the shabby rental house, drinking heavily every day. The son Nanda gave birth to was not his. At the beginning she was with him just to find a cheap father for her child. After he worked hard to raise the child, Nanda turned around and got back together with the child's biological father and kicked him out. When I went back to my hometown to hold the anniversary memorial service for my parents, I saw him once. He was only in his early 30s, but most of his hair had turned white. He was reeking of alcohol and sitting on the street in a daze. Passers-by looked at him with disgust. Who could tell that he was the once glorious Callum? I'm not overly sympathetic like a saint. But still I couldn't help but feel a bit sad. In fact, when we were all children Callum was very good to me. But later, we all grew up and changed. When I walked past him he seemed to recognize me, and stood up excitedly. But then he suddenly turned around and covered his face tightly. I just pretended not to see him or recognize him and kept walking forward. Another spring has come. Another year when the flowers are like a brocade. I won't look back and I won't forgive. I'll just keep walking forward forever in Cheval Spring. The end.